wheelchair, physical assistance, and communication technology. I think if I went any farther into how cerebral palsy affects motor skills, we'd all quit. We'd all quit the video, including myself. So that is the main weakness of CP, is issues with motor skills, and so that, of course, does involve speech skills, just because of the oral mechanics of speech are affected by CP. However, as for the strengths, some of my favorite artists have cerebral palsy. Even before I did this project, because I read My Left Foot, the Christy Brown story, which is about an amazing poet and painter who figured out, or excuse me, really, it was his mother who figured out that he still had mobility in his left foot and almost no other mobility. And at a time where people with cerebral palsy were completely ignored or abandoned, or worse, completely abused, she stood strong, and she had a dozen other kids, and she taught him how to write and read using strictly the mobility of his left foot. And he was a painter and a poet, as I said, which was amazing. But before I even read My Left Foot, I've been a Zach Anner fan for years. He's a YouTuber. I have a secret dream of being a comedy writer. So Anner's Workout Wednesdays, which is a YouTube show where he, a man with cerebral palsy, goes to the gym and teaches his viewers. It's absolutely hilarious. It's so upbeat, wholesome, and hilarious. Unlike many other YouTubers, his humor isn't self-deprecating. He doesn't wallow in the negatives or draw his jokes for making fun of himself. Another amazing comedian with cerebral palsy, Josh Blue, does focus mostly on making fun of his cerebral palsy and is also completely hilarious. So no digs against Josh Blue. I love him. But I'm a Zach Anner fan. He's motivational, and not in the patronizing, you're so inspirational kind of way, but he's motivational in the, yeah, we all have our issues, but try your best and see what happens kind of way. In another one of his videos that I'm only bringing up just to tie in how the mobility issues that come with cerebral palsy really do deeply affect their lives. In one of his videos that he did for the Cerebral Palsy Foundation, he filmed it for them with his friends, he is trying to go through one of the most accessible cities on earth, our very own New York, looking for a rainbow bagel. It takes him over an hour just to get out of his hotel because the elevator that he can get to is constantly too full for his wheelchair to fit in, and the only other way to get down is the elevators that are past the stairs. He ends up tummy surfing down the stairs to get to the other elevators, and his friends carry his chair. But that's just getting out of the hotel. I couldn't recommend the video more for anybody who's trying to go into special needs education, because it just shows how even with our best, I suppose I can't even call New York the best efforts for inclusive and accessible living, because I don't think they are the best efforts. But even in one of the most accessible cities on earth, it takes him hours. Even though there are elevators and ramps and short water fountains and this, that, the other, it doesn't make the city accessible, and it also doesn't even mean that those things, as they are accessible. And another comedian with cerebral palsy is Maysoon Zayed, and she's New Jersey born and raised. Zayed is the first person to ever perform comedy in Palestine and Jordan, stand-up comedy that and is credited as America's first Muslim woman comedian. And the irony that she is a stand-up, sit-down comedian is not lost on her. Her TED Talk is amazing. It has 4.8 million views. And besides for being hilarious, it also highlights perspective of the cerebral palsy life. Both the strengths and the weaknesses. She tells a story about when she was in college for theater that I could not do justice. So instead, I will include the clip here.
I went to college during affirmative action and got a sweet scholarship to ASU, Arizona State University, because I fit every single quota. I was like the pet lemur of the theater department. Everybody loved me. I did all the less than intelligent kids' homework. I got A's in all of my classes, A's in all of their classes. Every time I did a scene from The Glass Menagerie, my professors would weep. But I never got cast. Finally, my senior year, ASU decided to do a show called They Dance Real Slow in Jackson. It's a play about a girl with CP. I was a girl with CP. So I start shouting from the rooftops, I'm finally going to get part. I have cerebral palsy. Free at last. Free at last. Thank God almighty I'm free at last. I didn't get the part. Sherry Brown got the part. I went racing to the head of the theater department, crying hysterically, like someone shot my cat, to ask her why. And she said it was because they didn't think I could do the stunts. I said, excuse me, if I can't do the stunts, neither can the character.
And so, of course, I'm not trying to say that everybody with cerebral palsy is amazingly hilarious. Going back to Christy Brown, a lot of the stuff that he wrote is not very funny at all. A lot of it is sad or incredibly touching. It's not comedy, though. So I'm not trying to imply that all people with cerebral palsy are amazing comedians or that they should go into comedy. But I am trying to say that this spark of performance and artistry does seem to be a sign of, honestly, a lot of people who are differently abled, whether it's CP or fatigue disorders or many other things. I suppose that's what art is trying to channel your life into a way that other people can understand and relate to and draw from. And so it doesn't really surprise me that people with CP are incredible artists. Of course you can't say that for everybody. I'm not trying to make a generalization, but when it comes to the question, what are the strengths of CP? Of course, art and comedy are going to come to the front because they show what it is to survive in a world that in a way wasn't made for you, which is incredibly sad in its way, but that's where humor and beauty comes in. When the world itself isn't 100% welcoming and kind, even when it's not actively being mean, sometimes you do need to add your own humor and artistry to it. And that, I believe, you do see a lot with CP. In my experience, when